Tonight, the GTA gets its first taste of winter.
A little unexpected, even though they did predict we were getting a lot of snow. You never think you're going to get this much.
The first major snowfall of the season hits hard, and now comes the cold. Plus,
you love our way of life. You love our milk and honey.
You know, it's a little much. It's not the hockey way.
Don Cherry is fired by Sportsnet after his controversial remarks on Coach's Corner. The reaction pouring in. And taking the time to remember those who served. Torontonians mark Remembrance Day with ceremonies across the city. Well, that snow that started early this morning just kept falling. The GTA getting its first real taste of winter today. But once the snow finally does stop, get ready for the cold. Nothing like a little taste of January, November. Let's bring in our meteorologist, Colette Kennedy, right now. So, Colette, how are things looking for tomorrow's commute?
Well, I'll tell you, you know what, Mike, there's still a lot going on out there. And even though the bulk of it is going to be ending in the next few hours here, and so that things will wind down for tomorrow morning's commute, we're still going to be looking at things being very slow, just because the amount of snow, how cold it will be. And so we are going to have some slick spots, even if the roads have been treated and things like this. It's when the air is this cold, it just becomes that much more difficult for these things to be effective. I know this is an incredibly busy map. Yes, we have so much going on in terms of our warnings and our advisories for Toronto, still in the weather advisory, but that extends. This is for travel, wintry travel conditions from eastern Ontario back towards southwestern Ontario, all the areas in blue. We're going to go in closer look at this in just a moment. I do want to mention, though, that as the winds change behind this system, the areas in yellow, a snow squall watch, and getting into snow squall warnings, because those winds will turn towards the northwest, and we'll see some squalls setting up into tomorrow. Our focus area right now, white areas, that's our snowfall warning. Red, the winter storm warning, where the enhanced amounts due to those winds over the lakes could be 25 to 30 centimeters. That's all told. That's not additional. We're quite far there in terms of some of our accumulations. There's the snow. There's the band. That's still got to push towards the east, but you can see a few more hours to go, and that is going to be moving through. Some of the enhancement because of the winds, some of those areas you're going to continue to get into some snow because it's different from the system itself that is pushing through. But I would expect as we get towards, this is 1 a.m., so 2, 3 a.m., this will have left the GTA, leaving some flurries behind, other than those areas I've mentioned where we get into another situation. Speaking of some of these squalls, tomorrow afternoon, just past the lunch hour, we could see some of these tagging back into the city, where, by the way, at this point, we're already at about 13 centimeters. So we're really on our projections to get another few centimeters and get close to that 15 centimeters. That's what that weather advisory area is, 10 to 15. We're very, very close to those numbers. We'll take a closer look at the cold air that's in place and what's going to happen with that coming up, Mike.
Okay, thanks a lot, Colette.
You're welcome.
Well, the timing of that bulk of the snow was not ideal, affecting thousands of GTA commuters as they made their way home, facing hazardous road conditions. According to the OPP, they responded to well over 400 collisions across the province today. Natalia Ricci looks at how people fared during this first blast of winter.
First shovel, first plow, scenes of the first big snowfall played out across the GTA today. And it hit Hamilton hard.
Oh, I'm loving it. I have the day off, so I shoveled a bit of snow, took the dog for a walk.
It's a lot of snow. I don't really like cold, but it's okay, I guess, as long as I get to stay home.
In Mississauga, the city says it was all hands on deck.
Are you able to break down for us just how much equipment is being deployed today?
Sure, we actually have 379 pieces of equipment in total that we use for the entire city. We have 4 yards. This is one of in our biggest yard. So there's about 150 trucks that we have that do salting and plowing, and then the rest of the equipment is to help the other operations.
It's the same story in Toronto, where around 600 pieces of equipment hit the streets today. They even had to call in the contractors a little early, but the city says they were ready.
So when we found out that there was going to be a possibility of 13 centimeters of snow today, we got on the phone, we mobilized all our crews, all the contractors, and they were able to essentially deliver a significant amount of the equipment in earlier.
A busy day for CAA, too. They're reminding drivers to clear off their vehicles. The service expecting around 5,000 calls today.
On a typical winter day, we do service about 4,000 calls, so slightly higher than normal. So far, our average wait times have been standard, so around 28 minutes or so. We do prioritize people who are out on the side of the road or in emergency situations.
Officials hoping to minimize emergency situations by reminding people to be prepared.
Well, I don't have my winter tires, but I have everything else I have inside already. Like my washer fluid's topped up, my wiper blades are new, my snow brush and everything is in the car.
As plowing operations continue, the city is reminding residents to be patient. Their priority is getting all of the main roads cleared first, and they have already started salting some of the side roads too. Toronto Pearson Airport reminding customers to double check their flight times tonight for delays or cancellations. They've already seen a few of those. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Besides the snow, the other story that has people talking tonight, Don Cherry. Sportsnet fired him today after his controversial remarks Saturday on Coach's Corner, where he in part called out immigrants for not wearing poppies. Kelda Yuna is live at Moss Park Arena for us tonight. Hockey being played behind you there. Kelda, you've been getting reaction from people about this news today, and that reaction's been quite mixed.
That's right, Mike. We know calls for Cherry to step down had been mounting ever since his remarks on Saturday. Today, Sportsnet issuing a statement late in the afternoon saying that after further discussions with Cherry, the decision was made for him to step down immediately. His name is continuing to trend on social media tonight here at Moss Park Arena. While some think it was the right decision, there are some who think it's just too harsh.
You don't take Don Cherry away from the game.
Billy Scott is a hockey dad and a hockey fan.
He has a freedom of speech. Some of the things he shouldn't have said, some of the things he goes overboard about, but that's Don Cherry on every Saturday.
But many thought what Cherry said on Saturday went far beyond what should be accepted.
You people love they come here, whatever it is, you love our way of life, you love our milk and honey. At least you could pay a couple of bucks for poppies.
The Canadian Broadcasting Standards Council says it got so many complaints it had to stop responding to them.
When you have that kind of a platform, you need to be, the responsibility is enormous, and you need to be able to shoulder that responsibility.
Alex Markovich volunteers as a youth hockey coach. He thinks Cherry stepping down is overdue.
To go on the rant the way in which he did and targeting the people that he targeted, it's not the hockey way, which, you know, he has been kind of prescribing for his whole career.
Outside the Hockey Hall of Fame, reaction was also split.
I think we're a little too sensitive. I don't really think he meant much by it. Who cares, really? I live in the U.S. for 20 years. I can understand and see racism when I see it very quick now, and I think he's part of that.
Maybe he doesn't mean what he meant to say. Also, I should have apologized.
And for longtime hockey player and fan Greg Matthews, it's mixed emotions.
I think it's unfortunate, the whole thing. I mean, Don's been getting a little over the top, you know, over the years, but I'm sorry to see him go. I'd like to see him continue in some way, and maybe for the thing to be smoothed over.
And there are petitions online calling for Cherry to be reinstated. One of them has over 40,000 signatures and counting. And we should note Cherry worked for Rogers, not CBC. Even though Hockey Night in Canada airs on CBC, it is owned and produced by Sportsnet. And we haven't heard if they will be replacing Cherry or if the segment will continue on Saturday. Back to you, Mike.
We'll be watching what happens then. Thank you, Kelda.
They were young as we were young. They served, giving freely of themselves.
Today, once again, we honor their courage and sacrifice.
Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. And the going down in the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
remembrance ceremonies taking place across the city and the GTA this morning as Canadians unite to honor our veterans. Now, Premier Doug Ford held a remembrance ceremony at Queen's Park today, honoring past and present members of the Canadian Armed Forces.
We should remember that during times of crisis and during times of peace, we must focus on the things that unite us rather than divide us as a country.
This gathering just one of many taking place around our city. Members of the Royal Canadian Navy gathered at Prospect Cemetery on St. Clair West for a sunrise ceremony, and hundreds showed up at Old City Hall to show their respects as well. Our Greg Ross was there.
Thousands gathered in front of the cenotaph at Old City Hall to honor those who fought for Canada's freedom. Their message clear.
We will remember them.
The honored guests at this ceremony, Canadian military veterans.
For me, it's very personal.
Including retired Lieutenant Colonel Martin Keneally, who served 32 years in the armed forces with 6 tours overseas.
When I was serving in Afghanistan and before and after, I was a commanding officer of the 3rd Battalion. And I had to tell people that their families had lost a loved one, and that was a really difficult time. And this is a day where I think about the little toll that took out of me and my family.
As a person who's lived his entire life in Toronto with all of its daily freedoms, it's hard for me to imagine the feeling of living somewhere where you face daily conflict.
The mayor addressed the crowd and later laid a wreath at the base of the cenotaph.
When you have a day like today when there's a bit of snow here unusually, it's extraordinary how many people show up, and it's people young and old, and it's people from all different backgrounds.
In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row.
For most, it's a day to remember, but for some, it's a day to discover. How old are you?
3.
Yutso Menseng was there with her father, Chidar.
You got a poppy too?
Yes.
Her father kept it tucked away in his pocket, worried his daughter may be a little too young to have it, but not too young to learn what it stands for.
I was telling her about the poppy, that we are signs for remembrance for all the veterans who have sacrificed for this country.
In keeping with tradition, at the end of the ceremony, people were encouraged to come and leave their poppies here at the cenotaph or put them on one of these wreaths. It's a sign of respect to the poppy and to the people who fought for our country. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
A warning about a new scam for anybody that uses a smartphone. It could lead to your bank account being drained and your personal information accessed, and all they need is your cell phone number. I'm Angelina King. I'll have more on what to look out for and how to protect yourself. That's coming up.
Child was rushed to hospital this afternoon with critical injuries after being struck by an air conditioning unit that fell from the 8th floor of a Scarborough apartment building. This happened in the area of Lawrence Avenue East and Mossbank Drive near Scarborough Golf Club Road around 3:30. Officials aren't telling us the child's age or gender. A pregnant Indigenous woman who disappeared in Toronto a week ago is still missing, and her family members are fearing the worst.
I started panicking, like when I woke up Monday morning, all her belongings were here and she wasn't on the couch. I'm praying she walks through that door.
Natasha Shawayahamish is 3 months pregnant. She was staying at her cousin's home in Parkdale and visiting Toronto from her Northern Ontario Reserve in Fort Hope. The 30-year-old mother of 4 was in the city for a training course, but never showed up. She also missed her scheduled flight home on Thursday. Now, before she was reported missing, Shawayahamish was spending time with a friend in Toronto, and that man has also been reported missing to police. She was last seen near Dawes Road and Victoria Park Avenue in Scarborough. Police are appealing for anyone with information to come forward. And the OPP is warning about a new scam targeting cell phones. It's called SIM swapping, and it allows fraudsters to access anything on your smartphone. All they need to start is your phone number. Angelina King speaks with a victim who has a warning for others.
Carly Caruso says at first she was surprised, then felt vulnerable. She was at work using her phone when suddenly she had no service. She called her phone company and was told her number had been transferred to another provider, known as porting, and that her account was closed.
It was pretty unnerving, knowing that someone had just sort of taken my identity.
Within 2 hours, the fraudster accessed her PayPal account and tried spending $2,300.
They had added a new address into my PayPal account, and they added a new email address that looked like it was mine. They used my name.
Police say fraudsters are impersonating people, tricking phone companies into porting victims' numbers to their own phone. Then they'll download the apps you have, click on Forgot Password, and get access to the verification code. Then they'll change your password, take over your accounts. The worst case scenario is they drain your bank accounts, defraud your entire contact list, and apply for credit all in your name. One tech expert says secure porting is more of a human issue than a tech one.
You could have as many factors of authentication as you wanted, but really a lot of this is needing to make sure that there's more steps in place to prevent people from giving other people access to information.
Porting requirements are administered by the Canadian Wireless Telecommunications Association. It says carriers are constantly reviewing security measures. To protect yourself, police say to keep your personal information personal. Don't publish your birthday on social media, for example. Ignore phishing messages asking to confirm your password or update your account. Use an offline password manager. Call your phone provider if you lose service and ask them about security measures. Caruso got her number back but had to get a new phone plan, which costs more. Her carrier added Port Protect, free additional security measures to prevent illegal porting. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
The NBA title is yours. The Toronto Raptors are the 2019 NBA champions.
Good times. But the last time they were on the same court, they won a championship together. Tonight, for the first time this season, the Raptors meet up with Kawhi Leonard and his new team, the Clippers. We'll have that after the break.
The weather update is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
The Raptors facing the LA Clippers and Kawhi Leonard for the first of 2 meetings this season. They're also facing former Raptors teammate Patrick Patterson. He actually led the Clippers to an early lead in tonight's game with a couple of threes, but right now in the second quarter, Raptors are ahead 35-33. Kala Kennedy's back with a look at our long-range forecast. You know, Kawhi playing in LA. Much better weather in LA than we're getting in Toronto tonight, for sure.
Oh, boy, yeah. Those Raptors are avoiding this snowstorm that we have on tap. And, you know, I'll tell you, we're getting close to our numbers, our projections. We're just a few centimeters shy of that 15 centimeters for Toronto, but we've still got a little bit to come. I think we're going to perhaps exceed it by just a little bit. And you know, all the ingredients here, not just the snow, but the cold air that's moving in too. We might potentially break some overnight low, some records in the next couple of nights because our temperatures are falling so low. These are our current readings right now. We're already at -7. We've got these winds. They've factored into the storm as well because over the lake they've enhanced our snowfall that we're seeing from Hamilton around towards St. Catharines, Grimsby area. All those are enhanced, and that's why we have the winter storm warnings in those areas that I was talking about earlier in the show and the snowfall warnings. And you factor those winds in as well, and this is how it feels, -14. So those are the kind of conditions you have to think about tomorrow morning in terms of how cold it's going to feel. Will most of the snow be over with? Yes, it will be. In fact, there's our snow line just back right there as we're coming through. So the next couple of hours, that continues tracking east to southeast and will be clearing through the lower Great Lakes here eventually. Just give it a little time towards 2, 3 a.m. Seeing that moving out of here. It'll take a little bit longer, though, around the Niagara Escarpment, and also that's why another reason you'll see some enhanced amounts. The weather advisory, by the way, has now been dropped for the Windsor areas. You can see some of the improvement that's going on there, but snow squalls are going to set up, so some watches and warnings in the lee of Lake Huron going into place too. A look into tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, very cold air in place. This means that the snow is going to be there. It's going to be on the ground tomorrow morning, so we're still going to have some issues on the roadways just in terms of it taking some extra time because we will have some slick spots. Then the other thing is with those squalls setting up in the afternoon, they may even have an impact at times on the GTA, maybe with just some light flurries, but at a few times, especially after the lunch hour, we could get into some whiteout conditions as some of them make their way all the way down towards the lower Great Lakes from what's passing over Lake Huron. Overnight tonight, -7 for the Windsor area in southwestern Ontario and only climbing to -3 tomorrow afternoon with just some scattered flurries. Overnight tonight, we know this is moving away from us, but -8 in terms of our temperatures. There are some of those squalls. You can see the projections into tomorrow afternoon. -5, the high with that northerly wind. That's why it's going to feel so cold. And I have to tell you, Tuesday night into Wednesday, that may, well, if we get there, that will be a record for us. Wednesday, still -3, and Wednesday night into Thursday, another system is going to slide through that may give us another few centimeters, which will hold on the ground even as the temperatures warm up a little bit Thursday and Friday, Mike. Not really enough that it's going to melt things. That's probably not going to happen till later in the weekend.
It's a week you just want to stay under the covers and not get outside again.
I know. I want a fire. I want a cup of cocoa, you know.
Stay warm, especially
Or
tomorrow.
we can have this.
Okay, thanks a lot, Colin.
You're welcome.
Well, the planet Mercury took a 5.5-hour jaunt directly across the face of the sun today. Now, this is an event that only happens 13 times every century. Mercury and Venus are the only planets whose solar transit can be seen from Earth. They need a special telescope or binoculars with a solar filter to catch a glimpse. I watched a couple of minutes of this online. There was just too much snow to see it on telescopes from Toronto. Mercury is just slightly larger than our moon. The last time the event was seen was 2016, but your next chance comes in 2032. Well, she is a little porky, but she's clean, friendly, and has a winning personality. And that makes Lulu the pig an ideal member of the therapy animal team working at San Francisco's airport.
When we first launched the program, our main goal was to relieve stress for our passengers. However, what we have found is we have formed a connection with our passengers, and it's been totally amazing.
Part of her appeal is that 5-year-old Lulu doesn't mind dressing the part, nor is she adverse to posing for pictures while putting anxious travelers at ease. She and her canine colleagues, known as the WAG Brigade, parade through the airport, making friends wherever they go. Now, Lulu is housebroken and fully SPCA trained in the art of good manners. Well, that's our show for you tonight. Thank you for watching. We want to leave you now with some pictures from Ottawa tonight. The virtual Poppy Drop Light Show in the center block at Parliament Hill and also at the National Arts Centre. Good night.